Hello and welcome to the Astrology Forecast. My name is Sage. Here is your eye into the sky, letting you know what the cosmic events are for the week, why they matter, and how you can use this information in your everyday life. It is the week of Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all who celebrate. If you don't celebrate, then happy middle of November. I am now taking bookings for December personal forecast readings. If you are interested in knowing more about what the planets have in store for you in December. Sneak peek, we do have a Mercury retrograde coming up in December, and Christmas will actually be a full moon. So lots of energies to look at. Venus will be moving signs. We just have a lot going on in December. It's kind of an up and down month. So if you are interested in understanding more about how this is going to influence you, just go ahead and hit the link below. And we are almost out of Scorpio season. Again, happy solar return to all the Scorpios out there. I am just now coming around to the final Scorpio season solar return readings that I've been doing. It is not too late. If you are a Scorpio or if you have friends that are Scorpio, and you are looking to gift them a reading, 50% off on solar return reading or 30% off birth chart reading, go ahead and again, hit that link. You can book that up until this Wednesday. I almost said Friday. This Wednesday, because that is the day that we are leaving Scorpio season. So again, if you are interested in that, please go ahead and book it. All my Sagittarius, it is your season coming up. Today's forecast, we are doing our all about Sagittarius conversation. And again, if you are a Sag and you are interested in a solar return reading or a birth chart reading, definitely stay on the lookout. I will be making a post about that on my Instagram. If you don't already follow me, definitely go ahead and follow me. And again, knowing what is in store for you in December can be extremely helpful as well. So different offerings on the table. Take it or leave it. If you're interested, go ahead and book one. So I hope everybody is enjoying the transition that we're about to make into Sag season. I know Scorpio season is typically heavy, but it's also super insightful. Just last week, we had the new moon in Scorpio. We also had that Sun-Mars cazimi. Funny enough, and this is just a quick personal anecdote, I didn't even realize this, but just the other day, we were out shopping together, Shane and I, and we were looking at different things that we could do to our home. We've been having certain ideas of things we wanted to redecorate. Long story short, ended up getting home and completely changed up the energy in our space. Just redecorated, took action on changing out certain things. I spent a lot of time last week cleaning my house. Just a lot of emphasis on my home and living environment. Now, I say all of that because as a Leo rising, I happen to have Scorpio in the fourth house. The fourth house is all about your home and your living situation and your environment that you live in. And just so ironic that all of this activity happened in my fourth house during the week that Scorpio had a lot of potency. So it's funny because if you think back on situations that you are either experiencing or maybe decisions that you're making, it's funny to note how the planets have influenced that. I'm an astrologer and I still did not even put two and two together until after the fact. We were sitting in our living room, enjoying the space, really just, admiring what we did and changed up. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, the Sun-Mars cazimi was in my fourth house. How did I not even put this together as I'm in the store purchasing all of these different things for my house? It was just really interesting to note. And again, knowing where you have different signs in different houses, basically what sign is showing up in what area of your life, can be so interesting. Not only is it insightful, but it's just really cool to reflect and see how that energy showed up even though you weren't expecting it or planning for it. We're in alignment whether or not we see it. It's just bringing that alignment to light when we talk about astrology. So just wanted to throw that in there. If you do have any fun Scorpio, Sun, Mars, cazimi stories to share, go ahead and drop them in the comments. Would love to hear about how last week's new moon and again that cazimi affected you. So again, this week we are diving into all things Scorpio. So we're going to jump right into it, starting off with our all about Sagittarius. Did I say Scorpio? I meant Sagittarius. Sagittarius energy. So this week is going to be solely about Sag, whereas last week was solely about Scorpio. So pretty interesting switch up. So let's dive right in. So starting on Wednesday, November 22nd, the day before Thanksgiving, the sun will enter Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is an interesting switch from Scorpio season. We just are coming off the heels of a darker period in the zodiac. Scorpio is known for going deep and going into the depths of the darkness of that abyss that most people don't go to. During Scorpio season, we were encouraged to go inward. That growth, that elevation, that expansion was inward. It was deep. It was going into the areas, the shadows, the crevices of our soul, of our psyche, of our emotional body that we don't often touch on, right? And so a lot of growth happened inwardly during Scorpio season. Scorpio season is when we go and we look at all of the things that we don't care to usually look at. The shadows in the closet suddenly come out during Scorpio season, and we suddenly have to take note of them. We have to attend to them. We deal with that. It's kind of like that shadow work, or whatever you want to look at that as. One thing about Scorpio season, it's very alchemical, right? It's that transmutation or that transformation of the darkness into the light. And so following Scorpio season, we have a very bright energy. We have Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. It's ruled by Jupiter traditionally, and it is represented by the centaur archer, which we will be discussing its significance here in just a bit. Sagittarius is very bright, right? This is a very much more buoyant energy than Scorpio. And again, there's always a reason why each sign follows the next. This is not random. This is very in alignment with the flow of energy and the cycle of the zodiac. So going from Scorpio season, where we have to get real and raw and look at the things that might be triggering, that might be more traumatizing, that are usually a little bit darker and more challenging to face, right? We come from that darkness in Scorpio season, and then we transition to the light of Sagittarius is a much more expansive energy, whereas the growth factor was more so inward during Scorpio season. All of a sudden, growth becomes a lot more outwardly focused during Sagittarius season. This is ruled by Jupiter. One thing about Jupiter, it is the largest planet in our solar system. Again, next to the sun, Jupiter is the biggest. And so it's this very bright, expansive energy, this larger than life energy. And having this be the ruler of Sagittarius makes perfect sense. So Sagittarius is represented by the centaur archer. Its symbol is the arrow. Normally I do have a whiteboard and I bring that out and I show you guys the symbol, or what's called the glyph of the sign, but it's actually right behind me, and it's an arrow. So I'm like, most people know what an arrow looks like. Honestly, out of all of the symbols of the signs, I think Sagittarius is pretty much one of the simplest ones, because it's literally just an arrow. So, but why is it an arrow? We're going to dive into the meaning behind that. So again, ruled by Jupiter, this is the energy, the sign, the archetype of dreaming big. This arrow is sort of like a bow and arrow, right? And it's essentially, casting its vision, its direction to the stars, right? Shoot for the stars. This is the motto of Sagittarius. If you're a Sagittarius, you might be shaking your head right now like, yeah, I love dreaming big. I love expanding and growing. And that's really the key to understanding Sagittarius energy. This is a sign that likes growth and expansion. It's represented by the centaur archer. Now, this is a half man and half horse or beast, whatever you want to call that. If you're not sure about what I'm describing, I always think about, and if you're not familiar with this, then forget it, but I always think about Harry Potter. If you guys are familiar with Harry Potter, there's that one character, I don't even know its name, but there's that one character that has the half beast, half man, and Harry finds him in the woods. I think it's like the first or second movie. That's basically what a centaur archer is, right? It's, again, the bottom half is a horse, and the top half is a man. And this is an interesting visual representation of Sagittarius energy. Sagittarius is a fire sign. As we know, fire signs are the signs of spirit. They're actually very intuitive fire signs. Most people think water is intuitive, but fire is too. Fire doesn't know where it's going to burn. It just simply goes and burns, right? That's that flow of intuition. There's really no direction here. Now with Sagittarius, we have an arrow, and usually an arrow is pointing to something. And so really understand that centaur or that beast, that is the animalistic, fiery energy of Sag, right? That more primal, real, raw energy that fire brings. But it's being directed by the top half, which is a man. And that man is holding that bow and arrow, that man-made thing that is pointing in a certain direction. So it's basically looking to direct those animal instincts towards greater understanding, towards greater growth and wisdom and expansion. This is the crux of what Sag is here to do. One phrase that I love, and I have repeated this before, I actually read it in a book. Don't ask me what book. It's a really old book that I found years ago. Was made in like the 20s. But one line in that book really sticks out to me. And it says that Sagittarius's aim or goal, or basically like the function of Sagittarius as an archetype within our zodiac, is spirit, which fire is spirit, right? So this is spirit diffused in multiple directions in order to bring about greater illumination. And let that sink in for a second, because that right there, that line right there, really represents what the heart of Sag is here to do. Sagittarius likes to expand its horizons, right? This is the sign again, dreaming big, wanting to grow and expand. It's the third fire sign out of the three, right? We've got Aries, then we've got Leo, and then finally we have Sagittarius. It's kind of grouped into what's considered to be the universal signs, which are the last four. So Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. But Sagittarius, again, having it be that last fire sign. Aries is the sign of doing, right? Leo is the sign of creating, but Sag is the sign of growing. I always say that Sagittarius is like that cool flame. It's actually the coolest flame. And I mean that not like you're so cool, which you are, Sagittarius. You're very cool. But what I mean is it's a little less fiery than the rest. This is a bit more of an intellectual fire sign. It's actually the most philosophical and intellectual fire sign that we have. And if Aries is the bond with the big explosion, right, the bonfire, the bomb going off, and Leo is the hearth or the fireplace or the campfire, Sagittarius is like the star in the night sky that's way off into the distance. And as we know, stars are fire, right? There is an element of fire there, but it's way out there. It's not going to immediately make you sweat or make you burn, right? It's not right up close and personal like Aries and Leo. Sagittarius is that cool flame that asks us to dream bigger, to expand, to go out there, to gain experience. See, fire signs, they don't like to be still. If you've ever looked at a flame or a fire, that thing does not stay still. There's no stagnancy in fire. In fact, once you get something lit on fire, that flame is in constant motion. That's really what Sagittarius loves and what it aims to have in its life. This is mutable fire. Mutable, another word for mutable, think changeable, right? Think about changeability, adaptability, flexibility, fluidity. I think we get it, right? So all of those terms represent the changeable, the more fluid quality that Sag brings. This is not a fire sign that's directed on one path. It's much more spread out. And so one thing about Sagittarius is it loves adventure. It loves expansion. It loves seeking out new experiences, because when we have new experiences, what does that lead to? Wisdom, right? Knowing, intelligence, philosophical beliefs. Sagittarius is the sign that deals a lot with like religion and philosophy and spirituality. It's again looking to broaden its perspective on this world. Sagittarius wants to explore every square inch of this planet and beyond, right? It wants to really understand what's out there. It wants to garner as much information as possible. See, Sagittarius is opposite to the sign of Gemini. They're the same sister signs on the same axis, but they're vastly different. They're opposites in the sense that whilst Gemini is all about collecting the facts, I always think about Gemini as like the fact collector, the brainstormer. Back in school, when we were learning how to write essays, our teachers would say, okay, go and collect all the information, write it all down on paper, and then make that into an essay, make that into a theory, make that into something that we can understand in its broader terms, right? Not just looking at the individual facts, not the what of things, but the why of things, right? Why are these facts important? That's what Sagittarius does. Sagittarius is the sign of the higher mind, opposite Gemini, the lower mind. Again, it's not higher or lower in terms of hierarchy. It's just meaning that while Gemini is much more focused on the facts, the individual pieces of information, Sagittarius is putting that all together to create a theory, to create an ideology, to create a belief system out of that information. And so again, if you have a lot of Sagittarius in your chart, whether that be your big three, sun, moon, rising, or you just have a lot of planets in that sign, know that you really want to experience a lot. You want to expand what you know. Knowing where you have Sagittarius in your birth chart is so helpful because now that the sun will be there, and spoiler alert, other planets are entering Sag as well this week, we're going to have a lot more activation in that area of our chart. Basically, knowing where our life is getting illuminated can be super helpful. Again, booking a personal forecast reading can help you out with that. But this is the sign that wants expansion. This is the sign that gets bored easily. Sagittarius, if you've got Sag, you know, routine, stagnancy, that's a big no. Big no. In fact, Sages are known for wanting so much stimulation that oftentimes Sagittarius, you will go and do something, say yes to that trip, go on that, cruise or whatever it is. That's that spontaneous Sagittarius that just wants to go and expand and explore and experience. But at the same time, this is something I want all Sages to listen and hear me on, is that sometimes we leave things in our dust, right? We leave some loose ends when we just go off and hop on that plane on a moment's notice. And so usually the thing with Sag is that when we get that spontaneous urge to just go and take action and do something fun, which Sagittarius, as you know, loves to have a good time, we leave things in our path that we left behind. And oftentimes this can be things or even people. And Sagittarius, yes, you want to go and explore and expand, but you're leaving some consequences behind you that other people kind of have to figure out, tying up those loose ends. And so one thing about Sagittarius is that while Sagittarius loves to love life and experience life, sometimes this comes at a cost where you don't really consider the effects of other people when you go and just say yes to things without really considering the ramifications of what that means and what that will cause long term. Sagittarius is the perfect example of be here now, power of now, if you've read that book. That's really what Sages are great at. They're very good at being in the moment, like being in the present moment, knowing that what they want, they can have right now. That's really what Sages love to do. But again, not always a good thing if we're just expanding and going and going and going. And one thing about fire, guys, is that it can burn out, right? The flame doesn't always stay lit forever. But Sagittarius, you can either burn out or you can just keep going and going and going until eventually, some major consequence happens. So be aware, all of my fire signs, but we're talking about Sagittarius right now, to take time to retract that energy, to have that second thought before you just say yes to something. But again, knowing that Sagittarius loves experience and adventure, go out and do things during Sagittarius season. This is the time of the holidays, of coming out of Scorpio season. Things get a lot brighter during Sag season. Interestingly enough, though, Sagittarius season happens when the actual, northern hemisphere, we'll talk about that, is getting darker, right? This is the time when things are getting darker, that days are getting shorter, the nights are getting longer. I actually read something somewhere that said Sagittarius season happens when the nights are longer than the days because there's more hours to party, which I think is just really fun. And if you're a Sag, you probably smiled at that because y'all love to party. Sag is the life of the party. If you're going to have a party, invite your Sagittarius friends. I will say that. Because they're here to have a good time, right? This is the jovial Jupiter energy that just is happy-go-lucky and fun. And it's the happiest time of the year, or the most wonderful time of the year if you're following, by traditional society with the holidays and whatnot. Yeah, that's when everybody, you see the words joy everywhere, and happiness and winter wonderland and all of these just magical ideas that come to life during Sag season. But again, Sag is known for aspiration, right? It wants to explore and it wants to be inspired by things that are greater than itself. If you're a Sagittarius, going and traveling is so healing, so nourishing for who you are. And if you're not able to travel, that's okay. Travel doesn't always mean physical. Sometimes you can take a trip by just simply going deep into a really good book and expanding your mind and learning about ideas and concepts that really can expand what you think on things. This is what Sages love to do. Other things about Sagittarius: very idealistic, very optimistic. This is kind of that, bright light in the darkness. This is why it happens during this time of year when typically it's very dark. But Sagittarius is that much more buoyant, light energy. And so lots of positive energy with Sagittarius. Again, this can come at a fault because Sagittarius don't really want things to dampen their spirit. Sagittarius, you're a free spirit. You want to experience and you want to expand and you want to have that flame lit all the time. And so when something or someone comes in and tries to tell Sagittarius to be realistic, you're not going to be as receptive to that. And that's something that I encourage all Sages out there to take notice of. Not to say that you have to abide by some strict rules and some realistic dogma that doesn't fit who you are. It just means that sometimes we have to get our head out of the clouds and our feet onto the ground, realize that yes, our dreams are big, but Capricorn season comes in to make sure that those dreams can actually be created in the physical world. So there is a reason why Capricorn follows Sag. And so this is the time of year to dream big, to expand what you think on, to really, explore parts of yourself, parts of your life, parts of this world, right? The passion of adventure is what really makes Sagittarius such a potent energy. So have fun during Sagittarius season. That's really the name of the game. And so following on the heels of the sun entering Sag on Wednesday, November 22nd, we have 2 days later, right, the day after Thanksgiving, Mars enters Sagittarius. So now we're entering into our second cosmic event of the week, and this is on Friday, November 24th. Mars is entering Sagittarius. Now, Mars is the planet of battle and willpower and drive and intensity, right? Mars is known as the god of war, but Mars is also the planet that brings about passion and willpower and excitement and physical energy as well as sexual energy. Mars is what gets us off our butt and makes us do something, right? It's that energy of, okay, you've thought about it, you've dreamt about it. Now, what are you going to do about it? Now, Mars has been in Scorpio, and this has been great for Mars. Mars has been living in Scorpio because that's the sign that Mars rules over, right? That's its home sign. It's been chilling at home. Now Mars is entering into Sag. And so one thing I will say, Mars does well in fire signs. Even though it does not rule over or have any bearing over all the fire signs, just mainly Aries, I will say that Mars being in fire isn't the worst. In fact, it goes pretty well. If you consider that Mars is all about battle and action and passion, a lot of that is very fiery, right? We use firearms in war for a reason. And so Mars and Sag, I think, is a nice energy. But the thing with Mars and Sag is that we're really expanding our motivations here. Take all the concepts that I just discussed with all about Sagittarius and all about that energy of what Sages bring to the table. And now put Mars there, right? Put the soldier, put the fighter, put the guy that's hopping up, first thing in the morning and getting to it, getting to the gym, getting to work, getting to serving his family or his kids, whatever this is. And this can be a man or a woman. I don't know why I said him, but you guys get the concept, right? Mars is doing something. In Sagittarius, it's doing something around expansion and about making sure that it can broaden whatever goals it has, right? So when Mars is in Scorpio, we're getting deep. Again, that's that inward growth. Mars is encouraging us to go down and really pull out whatever needs to be pulled out and brought to the surface. Now that it's been brought to the surface, Mars in Sagittarius says, okay, let's expand that now and dream it up. Let's see how we can take all of this energy, all this work that we just put in and make it something fun, make it something enjoyable, right? Enjoy the fruits of our work and of our manifestations. And so when Mars is in Sagittarius, allow your motivation to be basically blown up like a balloon, right? And so it doesn't mean that there's going to be a lot of foundation here. It doesn't mean that we're going to have a lot of structure to our goals. We aren't necessarily going to take great action on making sure that everything is exactly the way it needs to be. Mars in Sagittarius is more of the dreamer, right? This is the what if. Our goals and our dreams with Mars, which is what Mars really helps us out with. Mars is great at setting a goal and attaining that goal. With Mars and Sagittarius, it's less about going and getting it done exactly, how we saw it. It's more about just, what if I could do this? What if I could do that? We might find that we're more excited about our dreams when Mars is in Sagittarius. We're more enthusiastic, right? We're seeking ways that we can, basically make something better than it was before. And Mars loves that, right? Mars wants to experience and expand, and so does Sagittarius. So that's a really good thing, I will say. Other things Mercury will be in Sagittarius when Mars is in Sagittarius. The Sun will also be there. So we'll have 3 planets in Sagittarius during the holiday season. So this is an excellent time to really get that happy-go-lucky, optimistic, positive energy flowing through us. This is the time to really think about what it is we want, and not something on a small level. We're not talking short term here. We're talking long term. We're talking the greater vision at hand. Mars has a hand now in saying, let's make that a reality. Mercury is in Sagittarius. Mercury wants us to think about these things, right? Mercury wants us to talk about these things. It's the planet of communication. And the Sun in Sagittarius is illuminating, right? It's that steady force that makes sure that this area of our life is being activated. Knowing again where Sag is in your chart, you can then see what area of life are you growing right now. Sagittarius loves growth. Mars loves growth. Having this energy combined means that this area of life is getting a huge power up. It's getting a huge boost. And so if you've been seeking ways to make that area of your life more fruitful, more exciting, more vision oriented, right? Dream big, right? It's like that the arrow shooting, what do they say? Shoot for the moon, you'll land on the stars. That whole idea, that's what Sagittarius brings. And Mars is the shooter. Mars is saying, yes, let's shoot for the moon, right? Let's do it. Let's not just talk about it, Mercury and Sag. Let's do it, Mars and Sag. So really good energy for making it happen. And again, don't beat yourself up if during this time you're like, I don't really see it happening. I'm more so like putting thoughts on paper, right? I'm reading, I'm exploring what it is that I want to create here and what I want to accomplish here. What are my greater aspirations? What am I inspired by, right? But then Sagittarius season is all about that. Capricorn season's coming later, right? That Earth is going to ground the fire. So use this time to brainstorm, to dream big, to really concoct whatever it is that you want, and then allow all of that dream work to go into that Capricorn season and become something that we can actually hold in our hand. So allow the vision to just live within your heart, that fiery energy, that spark of enthusiasm and inspiration, and in our mind with Mercury being in Sag. But know that it will come into form. If it doesn't happen, especially in the beginning parts of Sag season, know that it will. So just knowing, again, where these planets are showing up for you is so important. Special note for Sagittarius risings. If you're a Sag rising, Mars will be hanging out in your first house during this time. So please just be extra special, careful, because oftentimes with Mars in the first house, it can reinvigorate us, but it can also lead to physical injuries, such as like cuts, burns, scrapes. So just be very conscious of that. I have seen a lot of people that I've worked with, clients that have, had a transit with Mars going through their first house, and they get hurt, they break a bone, they burn themselves. I remember when Mars went through Leo, which is my first house, and I was cooking like the first day of Mars being in Leo. And all of the oil in the pan like splattered up, and it hit my stomach because I was wearing like a crop top when I was cooking, and I think I still have burn marks on my stomach from that. So just be aware. Last point I want to make about this week, as it is a holiday week, we do have the moon in Aries on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, with the sun in Sagittarius. This is also 3 days before a full moon in Gemini. I always find that full moon energy comes in about 3 days ahead of time. We have a full moon on the 27th, so actually it's 4 days, but we still might be feeling this full moon energy coming in around Thanksgiving, when there's a lot of energy, high energy already. We've got a lot of fire in the sky with the sun being in a fire sign, the moon being in a fire sign. So the temperature is getting raised during Thanksgiving. Interestingly enough, during Christmas, it'll be a much more yin experience with a full moon in Cancer. With the sun will be in Capricorn. It'll be a lot more earthy and watery and more nourishing. But Thanksgiving is a lot more of that yang, high energy, exciting time. So just putting that out there. Again, everybody celebrates differently, and some people don't celebrate at all. But if you are celebrating, just take note of where you've got fire in your chart and how that feels for you. How does fire feel for you? Because we're going to be feeling a lot of fiery energy on Thanksgiving. So with that wraps it up. Like I said, next week, stay tuned. We do have a full moon in Gemini starting off the week. So lots to look forward to there. It is the beginning of December coming up in just about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So again, if you are looking to book a personal forecast reading for December, hit the link below. And as always, please go ahead, if you got value from this forecast, please like this video. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Tap the notification bell as well so you can stay up to date on all of the cosmic events. So again, with that, I send you guys so much love. Have a wonderful holiday, and I will see you all again next week.